Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. Today is Saturday, August the 29th. I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am joined by the one and only Mr. Andrew Hansen. Andrew, what have you done in these days off, man? We had no podcast for a couple days. I didn't know. I was walking in circles. I didn't know what to do.
It's been wild. I mean, for Thursday there, it was a day to just relax and watch golf. But it's been wild, and I'm just excited. It's almost like a second restart here. For a while there, we weren't sure if we were going to get any more playoff action, so it's exciting that we will.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I had mentioned to you right before the podcast, I had just read something before we came on, because I was thinking, man, LeBron wants out. He's, they're not going to play because he's the de facto leader, really, of the entire NBA. So I figured, man, we're not going to have any more basketball. But then I guess he had a call with President Obama, and he's the one that told him, stay in there, play, and then this way you keep your platform. You can keep talking, and it makes perfect sense. So I'm glad it worked out that way for sure. I hope we get some good basketball coming up for sure.
Absolutely.
But I'm excited to be back on here. We're ready, man. This would have been a tough one to swallow because there's been so many great games, and I think we're going to have a terrific playoffs. I think everybody will get zoned back in. The guys that were banged up a little bit had a couple days to rest, so we may be better off in the long run. So very exciting stuff. All right, before we jump into the 3-game slate here, if you didn't hear, they're going to just schedule everything when the day they first stop playing and just push everything back. So everything's going to have the same rotation of games, so nothing will change that way. But before we get started, I want to thank our presenting sponsors, mybookie.ag. It is the place to go for all of your sports wagering and casino action. Use the promo code CoachTalk, all one word, no space, and you will receive up to 100% of $1,000 deposit. So you cannot beat that. And also tvg.com. It is the place to go for horse racing, and you can get a $300 risk-free bet by going to our website, dfscoachtalk.com, clicking on the banner that says $300 risk-free bet, tvg.com. And that is exactly what it is. If you lose, they ship you the money back. Can't beat it. All right, I'm fired up for this. We need to get right back into this slate. We've got 3 games and 2 big spreads of the 3. The over-unders are all around the same. So it's going to be a matter of, I guess, determining which games, if either or any of the 3, I guess, blow out, and how much leverage are we going to get with those players in that game, and I guess how much can we avoid stacking the Thunder and Rockets when that's probably going to be the really chalky thing across the entire industry. All right, game 1. It's a 3:30 afternoon game, so we don't have the super early game, which is good. Gives everybody a chance to follow our process, which is listen to the podcast, reserve and get your spots set for what cash or GPP lineups you want to get in. Follow us on Twitter throughout the day. You can follow us at DFS Coach Talk. I'm at Joe Sarvati, JoeSarvadi. He is at Andrew Hansen, and Shane is at DET Sports Shane. Can you believe I froze on that because I've only said it 18,000 times. So you can catch us there, and then definitely jump in Discord. Become a member. Love to have you. dfscoachtalk.com. And in Discord, we'll be chit-chatting with all of our super smart and knowledgeable members to put together some terrific lineups. And then we will share 30 minutes before lock a full FanDuel lineup, full fantasy draft lineup, and our famous DraftKings Coaches Clipboard, which gives you not only a player pool, but a core to focus on. Okay. The line in the first game, Milwaukee Bucks minus 13.5, and it is a 226 over under. All right, Andrew, I know you are like super duper prepared because you've been studying this and working on it for a couple of days. So let's hear what's going to bring all of our listeners the money.
Well, this is an interesting start because we've got Milwaukee, where the boycott started in the locker room before Game 5, and so 3 days later, here we get Game 5, and I'm curious what Milwaukee's going to be like. I think it's going to be a little bit emotional for them to have gone through that and have everybody know that they started it and now they're back on the court with a chance to close out this series. And I'm just a little bit concerned about this game. I think there's some unknowns. I'm not quite sure how it'll play out. I'm curious on your take on it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a couple different lineups with the mentality of the extremes. If this is going to stay close, if Orlando's going to push hard to try to stay in this and extend the series, then I would like some exposure to Vucevic. I may get even some exposure to Markelle Fultz and pair those two guys together. And it's a real tough decision for me on Vucevic because he's at 9,200 on DraftKings. And if you look at the big guy back in Game 2, Mr. Russell Westbrook, he's 9,900, right in that same price range. So, that's why it's a tough decision in my opinion. And if you think that maybe Orlando either is going to see the writing on the wall or they're going to want to protect guys like Vucevic and maybe not risk injury, knowing that Gordon's out of the bubble and they're not going to win this series, then you can start looking at these peripheral guys, and you could even take a long shot, GPP on a guy like Khem Birch coming off the bench. And, he's only 3,200. So he's one of my potential secret squirrel value plays in a GPP. And then on the Milwaukee side, Middleton is a guy that I'm still looking at, especially on FanDuel, because he's only 6,800.
Yeah,
whereas
they dropped him. He's dropped way down.
And shooting guard on FanDuel is a fascinating position with Harden and Middleton and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and CJ McCollum. I mean, and then value plays like Dort. I mean, that's a really tough position to work out. So I like Middleton a little bit on FanDuel as a pivot. Certainly Giannis is in play. But I'm just not quite sure. I don't have a great feel for Game 1 in terms of how it's going to play out. Do you have any clear visions on that one?
Well, I'm taking a stand, and it's going to be very contrarian, and I am going to share it here, on the podcast. I'll fill in some of my guys that hopefully can make a difference with our members in Discord, but I'm going to give you my take on this the last couple of days that I've looked at. And again, I think I'm going to be very contrarian here. So I'm not concerned about sharing this because I don't think a lot of people are going to have the guts to do it. But I believe Milwaukee comes out focused. Again, my take on this. I think they took their stand. It was a successful stand. I think they come out. They want to finish this series. And I think they're gonna play to that level. Now, Orlando, it's a playoff game. They haven't made the playoffs in a while. There's no guarantee they could make the playoffs again. For themselves, their organization, their fans, if you don't go all out in a playoff game, then when the hell are you going to save it for? I mean, you got to go after it. Vuk's the best center by a mile to me on this entire slate. I just don't think it's even close. There's a drop to Nurkic, and there's even huge drop then from there to the Lopez and Adams. I think Vuk plays. I don't think they have a good matchup for him as far as either Lopez brother, and I just think Vuk shines here, and I do think Milwaukee wins this game. But I don't think it blows out immediately. I think Vuk stays in there enough to be the highest scoring center on the slate by quite a bit. And yes, you're paying more for him than any other center by quite a bit, but I think you're going to get paid off there. And it's the second move's going to really shock you here. I like Giannis. I like Giannis tomorrow just because of the focus, the determination, the rest. He got a little rest. He was dinged a little bit. And I think they come out, he plays, 3/4 plus. And obviously we know he's the best DFS points per minute guy. So it seems risky, but to me, it's logical. And let me explain why. Everybody's going to be looking at Harden again. Westbrook's back. That takes enough away from Harden, to me, with a decent defensive team in Oklahoma City. And the reason I'm painting this whole picture now is it'll back into why I like Giannis and Vuk. So in that sense, I think they can hold Harden at a crazy 11-4 number, highest on the slate on DraftKings, and then he's 11-2 on FanDuel. So, I think Westbrook takes enough away from him to affect him a little bit. OKC's defense is decent enough. I do think Westbrook will be on some semblance of a minutes restriction, not real severe, but enough that I don't think he's playable at 9.9 or whatever price, on the site that you're getting. He's 9.9 on DraftKings and 9.4 on FanDuel. Way too high for a guy that I think won't play more than 24, 25 minutes. And so that takes that equation out as far as paying up for someone. Then you've got the LA situation. You've got a Portland team that is just completely decimated and obliterated by losing Dame. They're out of, they've been out of gas. Now there's this distraction. They're on the verge of getting eliminated. I just see the Lakers coming in and whitewashing them. And I don't think this is a good game. And I don't think I can trust anybody's minutes here. So if you back out of the LA guys, you back out of the Houston guys, to me, why pass on Vukovic and Giannis when, in my opinion, they could be 1-2, Giannis and then Vuk in scoring? I really believe that. So a really contrarian take, one I gave a lot of thought to, looked into the numbers. Milwaukee is the fastest paced team. I know Orlando slows it down a little bit, but not to the point that they had been. With Fultz playing more of a role at point, they're pushing the ball more. They're trying to get some things going in their fast break with playing Ennis and Clark and not having Jonathan Isaac and some of their regular guys in there that are more half-court defensive minded. So with the pace increase, with the fact that it's going to fall on Vukovic's shoulders, and the fact that I think Giannis comes out extremely motivated after this whole, protest, that's my thought. So I know it's a long-winded one, but, and it'll explain sort of the rest of these two games, but that's how I sort of backed into feeling that these two were a strong play. What do you think?
Well, it is certainly contrarian, I think, overall, if you play both of those guys and fade Harden and Westbrook, because I agree. I think most people are going to want to stack OKC Houston at least for half their lineup or more. I think it makes a little bit more sense on FanDuel just because of the position structure. Vucevic being locked into the center position, you have to take a traditional center. And then, like I said, with the shooting guard position, it's a lot easier to fade Harden on FanDuel with all those other options.
Right.
And so then you can pay up for Giannis. So I like it. I like it a little bit better on FanDuel. On DraftKings, I'm going to be a little bit more invested in Harden and Westbrook, and we can get to that in game two. I just want to mention one other point about Orlando, in that I think they have a lot of good options here for a one-off. So depending on
I agree.
How your roster comes together, which position you need a value play at, Fultz, Fournier, Ross could go off the bench. We've played Ennis and Clark. I think they're solid. I'm not going to be quite on them as much as value plays here on this one, but I think all those guys are in play for a one-off.
Yeah, I do too. I think, if you got to fill out your roster with a little value, I think Fultz is really a reasonable play in this game for sure. From the Milwaukee side, if I can fit him in, I'd love to play Middleton right alongside Giannis. His price reduction on DraftKings makes it extremely doable. He's down a couple thousand to where he was, just a week and a half ago. So
yeah, FanDuel,
or
down at
FanDuel. I'm
68.
sorry, he's 68. He's 78 on DraftKings. So
Right.
the 68 is just, man, that's hard to pass up. So,
Right.
And other than that, there's a few guys. Bledsoe's not a bad play at his price. Again, if the game stays close enough, long enough, these guys should, be able to smash value. So, I think it's going to be a key game for me. Obviously, I'll know where I stand in the afternoon. There's no doubt about it. But, it's not normally a stance I would take, but I just feel that there's some traps there. And, let's transition right to the other game, because I want to ask you a big question, because I think
Summer is here, and sports are finally back, which can only mean one thing. It's time to get back, relax, and make some cash. Everyone has to start somewhere, which is why you want to get off on the right foot by choosing an established book like mybookie.ag. With all the major sports seasons just around the corner, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. Dynamic betting lines and a simple-to-use platform make the process easier than it's ever been. Create your account in just a few easy steps. Deposit and begin placing your bets. Sign up now using promo code COACHTALK to get your deposit matched 100% all the way up to $1,000. Plus an extra $25 free play. That's promo code COACHTALK. Use it to score yourself an extra piece of the pie. With MyBookie, you bet, you win, and most importantly, when you win, you get paid.
it's a key to the slate.
Okay.
Game 2 is 6:30 Eastern. It's the Rockets -5 against the Thunder, 226.5. So half point more. The last game's 223. So we're not really getting anything to really stock in with the over-unders. Now, my question to this, from everything I read and everything I've seen and what makes sense, the Rockets are trying to make a deep run in the playoffs. I can't imagine, even D'Antoni, who's second to probably Thibodeau all times for playing guys so many minutes, why would you play Westbrook more than 20 to 25 minutes in this game? It just seems illogical to me.
Well, I think the reason is because it's 2-2, and they have to. And that's why they're bringing him back. I saw the report that he was explosive in practice on Friday. And, you said it with D'Antoni playing his guys. And here's the thing, even if we hear whispers of a potential minutes limit.
Well, did you hear D'Antoni's quote?
What did you hear for the quote?
And this is right from his lips. He said, they asked him, and he said, I don't know, but we will have some type of restriction on Westbrook.
Right.
So that doesn't commit you to anything, but at least he's thinking it.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Let's say that Daryl Morey and D'Antoni sit down and talk about a limit, and they come up with something. And let's say it's 26. I don't trust D'Antoni to stick to that in a close game.
Yeah.
What's the limit? How about the limit's 46? All right, you got to sit him for, a minute and a half in each half, so he can only play 45 minutes. I just think if he's explosive in practice, it's 2-2. I just don't see them babying him. You talk about going all out with the playoffs. This is wide open for Houston. I think they actually have a shot at the title. They have a shot to get there. They've got a unique roster, incredible 1-2 punch, and they really need this game. They can't mess around with OKC anymore. So I just think, I just don't know if I would trust any sort of minutes limit for him, whether they say it or not. So I want to play him. I won't play him in every lineup, but
I think that's going to shift the whole slate. If Westbrook does, if he goes against it and just plays Westbrook 36 minutes or whatever like he normally does and he smashes, or they get control of the game, they're beating the Thunder and he keeps them under 25, that's going to change the whole entire slate. And it could go either way. I mean, let's face it, we really don't know that. I'm going to lean towards the latter, which I don't see him maximizing. You're going to go the other direction. Either one could be right, but the one thing I do agree with what you said is I do think that they believe they can take a deep run here. But if he tweaks and gets hurt again, they're not going to make it without him.
Right.
So I mean, there's that fine line. Yes, we have to win Game 5, but we don't want to win it and then lose him for the rest of the playoffs. So it's going to be a tough call.
And that's why the other thing I will agree with you on is that if they're up in double digits, then they'll rest him down the stretch. I mean, they're not, I think he'll be smarter in that sense. D'Antoni won't just say, I'm going to play my guys. I mean, he'll rest him in that situation, but I don't think OKC's going to stand for that. I mean, they're going to go hard. They're going to go as hard as possible to push this and make it close. So, because of all those things, I do want to get a big chunk of my roster out of this game. I really like Shea. He's been so consistent. All 3 of his last games over.
He's really stepped it up in the last couple games.
Yeah.
After a slow start.
Yeah, he's been like minimum 6x here, 3 games in a row.
Yeah.
So, Paul is a little bit overpriced, I think. Schroeder is in play. Dort is still a nice value play. I do like Harden, by the way, even with Westbrook back. The peripheral guys I don't like quite as much for Houston, but Covington is waking up a little bit finally. Got 34 minutes, 4 for 8 3-pointers. Kind of seemed to take a little bit of the usage back from Green. So Covington's back in play for me as well.
Now, are you going to pay up for Harden and Westbrook?
In several lineups I am, because I think that if the game streak goes as I'm predicting, stays close, and they give Westbrook a good run, I think those 2 guys are just going to do about everything, and the other guys are just a little bit too pricey now. They're kind of priced as if Westbrook is out. Eric Gordon is 6.1 still. I don't think I'm not going to pay that on DraftKings. 5.5 on FanDuel is a little bit more reasonable, but I'm gonna have some lines with both of them in there.
Wow, for me it's the ancillary guys in this game. I like Shea as well. He only made value 2 out of 8 times in the play-in games, and he's made 3 in a row value in the playoffs. So he's really stepped it up and focused, and they're really trying to attack with him. So Shea's a great play. I think he's the best play on the Thunder side. With Westbrook back, that lessens Paul's efficiency to me, just because Westbrook is such an irritant on the ball. So I'm not looking there. And then on the Rockets side, I'm with you. I think Covington sort of took that a little personal there with Jeff Green finishing the 4th quarter in a couple of games in a row, and he finally stepped up, and he's a valuable player because he does a little bit of everything. So I think he's a terrific play, and I still love my man Gordon, and he's produced every time. He really has, and I know Westbrook, that's going to take a chunk of that usage away, but I still, again, with my game scripting of him not getting full minutes. When Harden's out, Gordon all of a sudden is the go-to guy, and he's going to shoot the ball. So, I like the fact that he's going to get good minutes and is looking solid. So I like those second flight guys. I can see, in this game being competitive, some of those guys could really play out. And, Dort is super cheap. He's not an offensive guy, but man, he can be that last guy in and make value for you. He drained 3 or 4 threes for us the one game. So
3 for 9.
I think all those guys are playable. I'm not going to go with the 3 Harden, Westbrook, or Paul. So that's where I'll be, saving the money from paying up in that first game. But I do think I don't have to go down to, the really dumpster dive guys, take a risk on like a Baisley off the bench and those kind of things, or a Noel. And obviously with playing Vuk, I'm not going to look at Adams in this matchup, but I don't trust the Adams Noel splitting minutes a lot now too. I know Adams is still the main guy and they need to win. So, if you are going to pay down at center, he may be the option to go to. I mean, I think most people will go to Brook Lopez or him as their center because they're going to want to pay up for these other guys. So I would think they're both going to have quite a bit of ownership.
Coach, do you know what this slate is going to be perfect for? It's joining it. It's being a member and playing our 2 FanDuel lineups, because what we do is we give out a cash lineup and then a GPP lineup. Right. And the cash lineup is a hybrid. I mean, you can put it in single entries. I always play it in GPPs as well. But you and I are going to have different builds here, but I think they both make sense when you talk about if the 2 game scripts go according to plan for you, then your lineup is going to smash. And if they go along the way I'm looking at, then my lineup should smash. So, if you join us as a member, you get those 2 FanDuel lineups, play them both, and I think there's a real good chance one of them is going to be terrific.
Yeah, and even on DraftKings, because of the different builds we're going to have, I think it's going to give you 2 different shots at it. And not, I only usually play 1 or 2 lineups. I know it's unusual, but I just try to pound the cash games and hit. But I may tweak 2 or 3 in there just to have a few different shots. But I feel pretty good about my stand. I really do. All right, game 3, the final game. Again, we've got the big spread here. It's a 9 p.m. game, Portland and the Lakers. Lakers are just the same as the Bucks, 13.5-point favorites. 223 is the over-under. So the $1 million question is, can Portland hang in this game? And I'll just give you my one plug and play, and that's the only guy I'm going to give you from this game. I have a few other guys from this game I like, but that's what I'm going to save. I have most of my build I'm sharing right here, right now, but I do have some players from this game that I want to utilize from a value standpoint that I think can also shift the slate. But I'll give you my one guy, and then I'll let you break this game out, because I'm not going to have a lot of exposure to this game. But I have to take C.J. McCollum. I just have to take him. I think he's going to take so many shots and be such a focal point of the offense, and he can step up, and I'm going to play him. So that's my one guy.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to continue the divergent builds here, because I like CJ here. I will have exposure to him, but in my first lineup, I'm going to fade him. And, the reason is because he does make so much sense, but if he just has a solid game and the Lakers run away with it and he doesn't have to play 40 minutes because they get blown out, I think there's a decent chance that Shea outscores him. And he's cheaper at that same position. 700 less on DraftKings, 300 less on FanDuel. And so that's my GPP approach.
Your pivot from McCollum is Shea, huh?
Yep. My fade the chalk in honor of Sugar Shane. This is his type of move.
It is.
And
what's amazing is Middleton has dropped so far below those two in salary. Right. Yep. He's 1,200 below McCollum.
I know.
And 900 below Shea. So, I mean, that makes you wonder if Middleton's not the play. Just to throw that in there, because Middleton has been higher than those two all season.
Right. Exactly.
Consistently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I said, he's not in my first lineup. He'll probably be in my second. I play multiple. I think there's basically 3 primary builds here that I'm going to get a couple different variations of on DraftKings. So he'll be in the second one. Simons will be in most of my lineups. I do like this value play. We'll have to see if you include him in your lineup for our members, but I do like him. I'm not sure if you do.
I do not. I don't like him.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's playing with confidence, and I know he'll get minutes,
Yeah.
but I think Trent and the other guys that have been playing more and better, I just think Simons is a reach that can cost you a slate if he throws 12, 13 fantasy points up there. Just again, we're on opposite sides of the spectrum here, but that's fine because there are a lot of different ways you can carve this up. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, the other thing with Simons though is I do favor him a lot more on DraftKings. On FanDuel with the pricing, the structure, I think he's a lot easier to fade. So I will do that in some lineups on FanDuel. And then all these other Portland guys are going to be in play. Tough to predict. Other than I do think the Lakers will win this one pretty easily. So I don't plan to use LeBron or AD. If I was going to play one, it would probably be AD. But I'd be more likely to look at somebody like Kuzma. But even he, in a blowout, he may only get 22 minutes. So I may not have any exposure to the Lakers, even though they may win easily.
Yeah, it's a hard call. I mean, it really is. I don't know if people are going to stack the Lakers up like they usually do. I think a lot of the industry's feeling the same thing, that this could be a blowout, and are a little bit hesitant there. I think most of the ownership's going to go to that Rockets Thunder game.
Yep.
But it's extremely interesting. Who is your main center? Or have you made that decision yet?
Well, on FanDuel, I am leaning more towards playing Vucevic.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep.
And you can get him in there with Harden and Westbrook?
No, just Westbrook.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at Shea and Middleton, the two guys you were just talking about as pivots to CJ McCollum in this GPP. Yep.
Yeah.
So
okay.
and then
what about
on DraftKings? On DraftKings, maybe go without Vucevic and get Harden in.
Adams or Brook, you think? I mean, who's the buy? I guess I'm looking for a buy down center for my second lineup.
Well, on DraftKings, you could go with Adams. I think he's in play. Is Covington still center eligible? He is not. The other value play I mentioned in game one is Kem Birch, and the reason that I may use him in this lineup is because if Vucevic doesn't smash and he gets less minutes, or for whatever reason, if he the alternative is a guy like Birch, and he's only 3,200. And I think he's going to be very low owned. He's power forward, center eligible. So he's my value play in my first DraftKings lineup.
You're speaking satanic things to cash player here.
Yeah.
Birch and Simons will not make my cash lineup. Not saying they can't make value, but I refuse to take that risk, man. It's such a killer if you have a guy that does it. Now, in a GPP, that could win you, take it down for you. There's no doubt about it. But this is such an interesting slate. I also tried to evaluate because I try to always look behind, like where people's heads going to be at. What's the thinking? Where do people stand now? There are some insights we'll have in some future slates. Like, for example, Paul George shared that he's been really struggling with this in a dark place, and explaining, basically why until that last game he's had just terrible games. It makes sense. And, just trying to figure out who's been more in the middle of this. Like, again, part of the reason I want to fade Chris Paul, not just because Westbrook's back, but he's the head of the Players Association. He's been in all these meetings.
Right.
He's had his mind totally taken away from basketball. And I think that kind of stuff chops away at your focus and what you're bringing to the table. I think you may see that with LeBron a little bit too, to be honest with you, because he's in the center of all of this more than just about any player. So, I want to try to look more so for the guys that are removed from it. Like, even as silly as that sounds, Vuk really isn't in the middle of this thing. He's sort of, secondarily in the background. Young guys like Shea, same thing. I think those guys are just learning the ropes. Whereas, the veteran guys, even a CJ McCollum, it could be a reason. to fade as well. But I just think he's such an important guy to that team in this game if they hang in there. But he's also a very intelligent, involved, guy that's a veteran in the league. So I'm trying to, and you'll see that pattern in these games until we really see how everything's going and we at least advance to the next round. I want to, try to fade the guys that I think are the most distracted and the most involved with what's going on in the cause. So, in other words, there are some guys that you can, pretty much figure out that are just doing the listening and following, as opposed to the guys that are leading. And it may seem like a small thing, but it really isn't, because, if we would have known about that with Paul George in those 3 or 4 games where he was shooting 20%, it would have made sense to us. So I think we need to even understand this now that this protest took place to another level. In other words, who are the guys that are really seriously, this stance is so much more important than basketball, and basketball is by far secondary. The younger guys and that, I think they're just trying to feel all that out. So that I think they just go out and play. But the guys that are really wrapped in it, I think it affects their play. Now, maybe once they get down the road and it's the conference finals and things, they can focus in for the big guys like LeBron and such. But, I think it has a little bit of effect. And I think the guys,
I think it's a great point, especially Chris Paul as the leader. This wasn't just one meeting that lasted half an hour. This was the big Wednesday night meeting that everybody's, meeting through the night, and they're back up early for the formal meeting at 11 a.m. And that will sap him because he takes it seriously, and
he's been in multiple meetings.
Oh,
they had to take a vote to extend, the players' ratification. So there's so much behind the scenes going on that, I really think that you have to take that into consideration.
Especially maybe it's a one-game blip where it just saps him a little bit. But I agree. It's enough to kind of finalize the decision to not play Chris Paul. I
agree. And they have one game to go. I'm sure that he knows they're not going to, or no, they're tied 2-2. So you never know. These guys could prove us wrong, and it drives them. But we're looking for every small edge we can get. And, if that's a difference of 5 fantasy points in a game, then we're gonna jump on it. So, I don't think you can really overthink this. Like some people say, just play the best guys. But, get behind the scenes a little bit here, dig in, and let's try to see who's going to give us that edge. So I do have a few more guys that I'll share that are value guys in Discord. We'd love to have you as a member. I really love our entire community. We're growing every day. So really appreciate everybody listening, and a couple of days off from basketball. We're back at it. So,
Coach, we should mention the fall special too.
Oh, yeah,
because
absolutely.
We dig in on all of our sports, and football is right around the corner. We were digging in, doing a breakdown of each team way back in, what was that, April? We did a podcast on every team in the NFL.
Every team. Yeah.
Sugar Shane and I are leading the way with the football coverage, and we're pumped for that. So with this fall special, you get 4 months at a really nice discount. So go check out our website, dfscoachtalk.com, get the fall special, and that gives you access to all of our sports, all of our lineups, every slate, every day, the FanDuel lineups, and the DraftKings coaches clipboard.
And it's a big savings. You get the 4 months for $199, which is a really good savings. So you've got the whole football season. And like you said, you get all the other sports to boot. So love to have you in for that. It runs September 1 until the end of the year, December 31st. So jump in. A couple things. Our charity of choice here is mambon3.org. That's MAMBAONTHREE.org. We want to thank our sponsors, mybookie.ag. Use the promo code CoachTalk, all one word, no space, and you get up to $1,000 matched on your deposit. And in tvg.com, same thing. DFS Coach, or I'm sorry, just Coach Talk, no space, is the promo code for that $300 risk-free bet. All right, remember, listen to the podcast. We're going to post it here, so you're going to have plenty of time to listen to it late tonight or early tomorrow morning or throughout the day, since we have a mid-afternoon start. Follow us in Discord and on Twitter. DFS Coach Talk is where you can find us on Twitter. Check out on YouTube. If you want to go back, if you're starting to get ready for NFL, because it's coming up, you can see all of those posted on YouTube. We have all of them there. Every team by team breakdown. Just go to DFS Coach Talk on YouTube and look at our library of podcasts. Also on Instagram, we're DFS_Coach Talk. And if you're watching this right now, we should have asked at the beginning and I forgot, but if you're watching this right now on the way out, please hit the thumbs up on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and the clock timer that gives you that information of when our podcasts are up. That makes a big difference. And our goal is forever to keep this in front of the paywall 7 days a week. And we need to keep those numbers up and really get that algorithm cracked there on YouTube so we can climb up the ladder. So that is it, my man. I think that is everything. A little bit of introspection here into how we're going to break this down and sort of a couple different strategies, totally different builds. So, take away from it what you can, check it out, watch the news, and then, we really hope between the two diverse looks that we're giving you, you can put something together that's going to win you all the money, not just some of it, all of it.
That's right.
Any final words?
Let's crush it.
All right, fantastic. Well, I'm so happy to say that we'll be back again tomorrow, as we just follow this NBA all the way through the playoffs. So this is going to be a blast. So we want to thank you for joining us today. We'll be with you every day, and we'll certainly be back tomorrow as we look to crush it in DFS.